Haven't done that before.
Thank you very much. I'll call the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting to order on September the 14th, 2022. And I'm going to first read the notice of recording. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on Channel 18 and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and please make their presence known. We'll do a roll call. We kind of got in that habit. Please, Doug, start.
Doug Crook.
Robert Lancaster.
Tyler Hagenstein.
Bill Cherapon.
Patricia Farina.
Amy Croto.
And Stuart Rapp.
And Alicia Lozon.
Thank you. First order of business is to approve the August 10th, 2022 minutes. Everybody get a copy? Check your email.
Sorry,
Do you get an email from?
I got this. I got the agenda. I don't recall seeing, it may have disappeared. Who knows?
I can zoom in on this if you want a moment to review them.
I have a copy.
Oh, all right, let me look. Thanks.
Oh, actually, yeah, so do I.
In the meantime, someone can approve them while
I make
Well,
a
they-
motion to approve
Move, yeah, okay. As presented?
as
As
presented.
presented.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Awesome. Move, seconded, discussion? No discussion this time? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Approved. Thank you very much. Great minutes, by the way. Thank you very much. Comments. So I know that we morph into a 6 o'clock start. Do we start in October or November?
November.
Okay. So we're all on the same page. We're 6:30 for next meeting and 6 November and December until April?
Ish?
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Sounds about right.
Sounds good. I do have a comment. Bay Street in Osterville. I just noticed a bunch of rocks along the side of Bay Street. There were signs that said no parking. If you drive down, it would be the southern side of Bay Street.
Okay.
And there are now rocks on the side. It's recently redeveloped. That older property has been recently redeveloped.
Yep.
So I'm just curious, those rocks now will impede, if we're going to have oysters there, that will impede people parking.
We have effectively abandoned that area for at least the next 3 years because of the Dermo situation. So
Okay.
we've shifted focus to planting what would normally be at Bay Street in the Bridge Street recreational area, since it's closed during this time of year anyway because of
Yep.
mooring area closures. So,
Okay.
and on that same note, that area, even though we put cohogs at Bay Street, will remain open to everyone. We won't have a commercial closure there like we normally do.
Sure.
Because we're also continuing to plant cohogs to the left of Bridge Street between the 2nd and 8th docks. So you'll have a number of places to go right down the street from each other for both.
Left at Bay Street?
At Bridge Street,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
in the normal spots at Bay Street,
perfect.
yeah.
Wonderful. That's the extent of my comments. Natural Resources Report, please.
Okay, so I know last month didn't have the numbers, so we have our numbers here. Of course, Al is not here, but we have our numbers. So this is review of July from 21 to 22. You can see we were up in pretty much everything, with the exception of resident senior permits. But we are also up close to, $20,000 budget-wise. Although we don't look at the propagation program as a business per se, it is, a solid increase in revenue for the Shellfish program. And then we have this past month in August, so 21 to 22. And again, modest increases, but still a general increase in revenue. So as the count is doing well, people like shellfishing here. I did get some of the preliminary results from that shellfish survey that was sent out to people through Woods Hole. back in last year. That was used to try to quantify the value of recreational fisheries. And we had the most responses from recreational fisheries across the state. So we had close to like 850 people respond out of close to 3,000 people. So shows not only that mooring info is an effective tool, getting word out about things, but also that we have a very strong recreational fishery, I would say. A reminder of what we have coming up tomorrow, because tomorrow's the 15th. So effective tomorrow, lots of things close. We do have Wayne scheduled to do the first round of additional water quality sampling with Simone while our conditionally approved areas in Barnstable Harbor are closed, in the hopes of maybe reopening some of these things during these months where we've been essentially assuming that they're the same amount of waterfowl causing the same amount of fecal detriment since I was in middle school in the mid-90s. And then this is just a close-up of what that closure looks like at Rendezvous Lane. Shellfish staff is out posting in the field today by boat, and I'll be covering kiosks and such tomorrow. We have our scallop season notice, because that's also something that's coming up. So this is still pending town manager's signature, but we've never had an issue with him signing off on when we decide to open scallops or oyster season. Recreationally, we're gonna open Saturday, October 1st, and then commercially, Monday, October 3rd. Everything stays the same, regulations pertaining to measurement of legal scallops, pertaining to limits of scallops, and then it will automatically close April 1st as required by the state of next year. And then we have opening of oyster season, which will be Wednesday, November 2nd this year. So yeah, mark that on your calendar, Bob.
Yep.
You got it. We obviously, effective Saturday, April 1st, 2023, it will shut down unless we decide to close it earlier. We were thinking it was going to be a very short season this year because we've had a bit of difficulty procuring seed and or oysters from growers over the past few years because everyone's still sort of coming out of pandemic mode. But the stuff that we got this year is already, a lot of it's already at 3 inches. So it may be just as good as in recent years, but I do envision us staying at a half peck for this season rather than going up to a full peck.
Question, Doug?
I was just gonna say, make sure Liz contacts me at the end of the year.
Oh, of course,
For,
yeah.
because if they're doing Big and Uglies again, I can do quite a bit,
Okay,
so.
good to know. And I think outside of that, unless anyone has specific questions for me, those are all the things that I would have covered in the natural resources report.
Great. Any questions for Amy? Welcome, Chris. Nice to see you. Tyler?
So the area is closed down tomorrow, like effective midnight tonight, or like sunrise tomorrow, like
Well, yeah,
no-
because you shouldn't be
can you-
shellfishing at night
right of
after
course.
sunset.
Yeah,
right?
never.
Come on, Tyler, you're giving yourself away.
No, half an hour before sunrise tomorrow is like the.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
no more. Okay.
no more. Till hopefully December 16th. We have had some extended closures in a couple of years, and that seems to be like case in point across most of
Yeah.
our town. But hopefully, December 16th, everything will reopen. And also hopefully over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, we get these extra samples, maybe things will change in certain areas.
Where
That's
are they
great.
going? Where's who's taking Simone out?
Wayne.
Wayne
For
is?
September, Wayne.
Yeah. So where are they going?
So
Specifically?
they have, like, they are setting up,
Everybody understand what the question is relative to?
so essentially, we have predetermined water quality sampling stations. I don't think I have, I'm not even really sure where I would put that in my
your way.
K drive.
I wasn't gonna say anything, you know,
I do
I was- I
have
was
like
thinking
maps
personal
of
thoughts.
the water quality
Just
sampling
that map
station.
is fine.
But essentially, they need to test in areas that are closed all throughout here.
Like all the closed ones, or are we just picking?
Nope, she's actually, I know you guys had narrowed it down, in your rationale to like this sort of general vicinity over here.
Yeah.
But she said, you know, if we're gonna do it, we may as well do all of them.
Right.
And so we're covering all of here and here, although I don't think that's gonna be very good. And then this area here. I have hope for like here and maybe here.
Oh,
I
100%.
don't have a lot of hope for here, or like here.
Sure.
Maybe here. So we'll have to see. Oh, and also this area here will also be retested. Not that area here because it's prohibited, but
Right.
yeah. So that's kind of the general gist of it, which was why she was saying, you know, like this is like a dedication. So thank you for offering to take her out on a couple of the
Yeah,
months.
yeah,
But it will be like a day,
Yeah.
not a whole day, but it'll be an event.
Like high tide or what's the?
So you usually want to sample on the ebb tide, yeah. But it's really just scheduling with her because you know how the tide fluctuates in the harbor better than she does because you're in there every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's picked times before where they just go completely dry or there's not enough water and then they have to wait.
Yeah,
So,
we'll
you know,
figure it out between the two of us.
yeah, it's always kind of a back and forth before we commit to a date and time to take her out for water quality sampling.
Good.
Yeah, and that's not just her, that's any area biologist.
No, cool. I look forward to like doing that with her. It'll be a fun thing. All right.
I'm going to move on. There's no transfers or renewals.
Nope, not upcoming, not for a bit.
And do you have the NOI for 494 Elliott?
Do you want to do those prior to the vote on reg changes?
Oh, I skipped that. I'm sorry. Under new business, no, I don't.
It took
Sorry.
me so long to put them together. I was shocked at how many of them have references. So previously, we had discussed shrinking the closed to commercial zone in Barnstable Harbor and having the recreational area at Scudder Lane stay the same, but also just continuing to include that Huckins Island is off limits. So I went through and looked at all of the regulations that address that. Of course, the first thing that we have are definitions. And so at the last meeting, we had discussed entering into some new definitions for low tide. These are for enforcement purposes. I was explaining at the last meeting that Tyler and DJ were not present at, that there's constant arguments as enforcement agents as to when sunrise is, when sunset is, and when low tide is, based on what the specific needs of an individual perhaps pumping soft-shell clams on the south side is. So I need something as an officer that is concrete and that I can say, this is when low tide is, this is when sunset is, this is when sunrise is. So all of those things are outlined in the Boston Tide calendars that we give for free to anyone in the commercial fishery, and that's available to anyone else from the general public, including the recreational fishery, for a whopping $1. And so we have looked to adopt low tide definition for enforcement purposes. Low tide is based on the Boston Tide calendar, available at Marine Environmental Affairs Department. For all water bodies on the north side of town, Cape Cod Bay and Barnstable Harbor, low tide is 0.5 hours after the time listed in the Boston Tide calendar. For all water bodies on the south side of town, including Nantucket Sound, low tide is 1 hour after the time listing in the Boston Tide calendar. We also wanted to add in sunrise and sunset, and so for enforcement purposes, time of sunrise and also of sunset will be based on that Boston Tide calendar. It's in similar fashion to how we enforce sunrise and sunset for hunting, which defers to what's provided by Division of Fish and Wildlife, and just gives us something that we can refer back to rather than back and forth over 20 minutes for like a quarter of a bushel of extra soft shell.
Rule, so this
Well,
makes
this is a
sense to me.
second reading, basically.
It is, well, it's, you know, we like to, at the request of Al, I think 2 years ago, was to bring things to you guys as they come up and then have them all go to a vote at once before they go to public hearings. So after this meeting, all of this stuff will be posted on the web for anyone from the general public to look at, so that before the hearing is scheduled, people have a chance to decide whether or not they like this.
Sure.
So in this regulation 40714, which is general commercial shellfishing, we'd be removing the crossed out wording highlighted in bold, which is north side commercial shellfishing area restriction. Commercial harvest of shellfish shall be allowed east of a line extending from the Barnstable Yacht Club Pier. We're getting rid of the to a post and sign at Green Point Sandy Neck and west of Beach Point Sandy Neck, except as otherwise noted or amended, because that area will no longer be closed. So essentially, we're just defining the eastern edge of the Scudder Lane recreational area.
Gotcha.
In 407-19, we were doing the same exact thing under commercial harvest area restrictions. These are specific to soft shell clams. And then commercial harvest of soft shell clams to be allowed west of a line extending from Calves Pasture Point, getting rid of all of this stuff that would normally be posted, but maintaining that commercial harvest is prohibited on Huckins Island because that will remain closed to commercial harvest. And then the entire last sentence just doesn't need to be there anymore because it will no longer be a closed area.
Sure.
407-22, this is addressing the commercial cohort harvest area restriction,
Same thing, yep.
getting rid of the same thing effectively. And in the last one, we address razor clams, which is basically all the same, except in this one, we had to add in that Huckins Island is prohibited to commercial harvest, which will then, and then we get rid of this one, which then makes the 504. And that is, that's all the ones that I could find that have any mention of that commercial zone that needed to have wording changes, so.
That's great.
So we should move them. You're done with your presentation on those?
I am, yeah. I will just make note that you should recuse yourself from voting on this
All right.
as a wild harvester, because you stand to benefit from any changes, so it could be a glaring conflict of interest.
Yes. Or are there enough people to?
Yes.
Yep.
What about Doug?
I am not a commercial.
Oh, you're
Aquaculturist.
just aquaculture?
Yeah.
Aquaculture.
Okay, I stand corrected.
While in the lottery, not quite there yet.
Not when you're 30th.
Move?
I would move that we accept the changes to the 22 regulations as discussed
Great,
and presented.
perfect,
I'll second that.
perfect. So well, let's have a discussion on them. Do we have any further discussion? No? So formally, if you would, just announce that you are recusing yourself, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm recusing myself from this vote on the new.
As well as the discussion?
areas, as well as the discussion.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye? Great. Any opposed? Great job. Thank you. You are now unrecused.
Thank you, Amy.
Not a problem.
So now I'll go to 494 Elliott Road. I don't see Ms. Wilson or an applicant.
Conservation Commission has already heard all of these committee letters.
Yes, yeah, 2 of them last night and 1 the week prior. This
What
was
action did they take?
So they approved the RDA, which actually I shouldn't say it's an RDA. It was, so what happened was this actually came before you guys last year.
This Elliott Road? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and at the time that it went before the Conservation Commission, they had determined that it was not a desirable angle or the most appropriate angle for this pier to be located. So they went back to the drawing board essentially under the pretense that it would come back as an amended order of conditions. So essentially it was like approved, but we just want you to fix where you're exactly locating the dock. This is way, way up.
Yeah,
in the
let's
Seminole
also-
River, far enough that we
This is a
didn't
prohibited
require-
area.
Yeah, we didn't even, it's actually so far up that it was one that we waived them having to do a shellfish survey.
Gotcha. Let's move on to Long Beach Road.
Okay, so that went before the commission yesterday, and they have to go back, actually, before the commission. There was a lengthy discussion. I was present there for the informal discussion on the Scudder Lane boat ramp and upper and lower lot improvements, but this was on the agenda. And so because there's not a house on the property, and because it didn't go to waterways yet, because they didn't have the boat that they actually want to put on there on the plan, and because there may be people who sail there from time to time, although this is, in an area. So this is like Craigville, Long Beach Road, right? Craigville Beach over here, this is there. So it's up in this tiny upper corner, also prohibited. Shellfish surveys did not show much other than muck and ribbed mussels, which is to be expected in an area like this. But because it didn't go to waterways, and because they were missing a number of things on the site plan, and because although this pier is grandfathered in, there still is no home on the property, they want them to come back to the commission. So they will in fact go back to the commission, but I don't foresee this being something that,
We have an interest in.
or that you would care to argue,
Right.
really.
Seems like a waterways kind of like hazard to navigation situation more than
Yep.
a shellfish thing.
Right, and it'll go before Waterways on the 27th, so I'm sure shortly thereafter, it'll go back to the commission.
Okay.
And then the final one is 17 Indian Trail in Osterville.
Yep, and that one was approved.
It's an existing bulkhead,
Yep,
and they want to replace it with vinyl, huh?
yep. That seems to be a kind of common theme.
They did that over at
Lately.
Cordwood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not my favorite, but, yeah. So that also was approved. It wasn't like a lot of the work that they're planning on doing is gonna be via the upland. Some of it will be done by barge, but it's already something that's been sort of, there's a precedent set with it. So it wasn't something that we really felt that we could argue much.
Who lives in that? Is that the huge one?
They own a lot of, Homeport Investments owns like, I want to say like 4 properties on that stretch that are all adjacent to each other.
Sure.
So yeah, but that one went through, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for your hard work.
Hey, thanks, I try.
You're
I'm
doing
trying
well.
to get used to this, it took me a really long time to get used to the Zoom, and now I'm trying to get used to having this stuff on the screen here. And I do still have, of 17 anyway, a large blow-up of the plan, should someone care to look at it. But, this already was seen by the commission yesterday, so.
Just a little cottage they're building, huh?
Yeah,
No, that's there.
Oh, it's there.
I believe that's there.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
This is just the
Yeah.
the
Okay.
bulkhead.
yeah,
Okay.
I presume it's wooden now.
it is, yeah, and it is kind of failing, I will, yeah.
Sure.
Now, is this vinyl white? Or is it,
The stuff they used at Cordwood was kind of grayish.
It's like gray.
Brown gray,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's not
Obnoxious.
too obnoxious?
It was gonna get dyed brown anyway from the
Yeah.
rust tide, right? So,
Sorry.
sorry. I digress.
No old business, any matters not reasonably anticipated? Yes, Chris.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your presentation. Maybe I missed this.
Introduce yourself, please.
Chris Clark, Town Council Liaison to the Shellfish Committee. Amy, since you mentioned you went to the Concom meeting yesterday regarding Scudder, did I miss an update? Or
No, so essentially what happened was myself and Derek Lawson had met with DPW and the Impair Corporation who, won the bid to do the work, to look at like very preliminary before going to public hearings for their 10%. And it had not even been seen by conservation. And so I was a little concerned about that and had mentioned it to Darcy, who then reached out to Paul Graves and said, perhaps you should come in for an informal discussion with the commission. And that's what happened last night.
Oh, I see.
So after this point, they'll pull together, they're planning on having their first public like outreach meetings in late fall, whatever that means. So probably sometime around Halloween would be my guess, but I don't really know. There wasn't any like set concrete anything. And they didn't want the plans up even last night because they don't feel like they're at that point for
Sharing.
viewing by the public. But they do plan on going to like public comment hearings next.
So did you have an opportunity to share with them the comments from the special meeting that we had, where there was a lot of
Oh, yeah.
user conflicts? I mean, user input.
Very much so, yes.
Okay.
And they continue to be comments from my
Okay.
department moving forward.
Yeah, because the essence of that meeting is the users of that ramp did not want it to be over-engineered,
Right.
like North Bay, the North Bay ramp.
Bay Street.
Bay Street,
Yeah.
thank you. So that was loud and clear, and I would hope it would save the town some money. So anyways, I just want to make sure that was out there.
I will say that it would probably be best for people to show up for those public comment hearings, who have any stakeholders whatsoever,
believe
people who live on the road, aquaculturists, wild harvesters, recreational shellfishers, anyone who has an investment in that area. Because, I mean, I guess it was recorded last night, but I would say, and did say, that both of the plans as presented were grandiose.
And you took notes, I believe, at the informational meeting that we had.
Yep, which I provided with Darcy when I sent her the 10%
Right.
plans, and then that was what prompted her to reach out to Paul and say perhaps you should go informally before the commission, before you go to public hearings.
Did
So-
you send those comments to Paul Graves as well? Because they were DPW.
Oh, he had them, yeah.
Okay, just saying.
Everybody has them.
It's not like it was a secret.
No, I know.
When's that hearing?
They're not scheduled yet. They'll be scheduled by DPW, but, you know, when I know about it, I'll share it with everyone,
Great.
likely through mooring
Good
info.
practice for Blish.
Yeah.
Because that's on my radar next.
The company that got the contract, they got the contract before the plan was approved?
So they had picked, so it goes, I'm not exactly sure how this process
Or is
goes.
this the
All I know is that
design
I was-
company?
This is the design.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Pear Corporation put together the designs.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that, there is not like a construction company for such, like a general contractor. This is all
Sounds to me like
still-
the town
This is all
contracted.
still design, and then after design and public input, then they have to go through permitting.
Sure.
So, and because it's an ACEC, and because of the things that I had seen on the plan, I had concerns about it not being viewed by conservation. They didn't have as many concerns as I had expected last night, but it could just be because they know that there's, you know, quite a bit more to come. So, I don't really know.
Thanks
Right.
for carrying the flag for the shellfish
no kidding.
industry.
Trying.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, matters? Motion?
You're looking at me. Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, all.